Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host James Egan, and today we'll be looking at the animated series Transformers. Transformers was a toy line before it was a cartoon. The toys were created by Hasbro. There was no story when the Transformers were toys, and there still isn't one. None of the toys were designated as heroes or villains. The heroes are called Autobots, the villains are called Decepticons. A comic book of the Transformers was released at the same time as the show. Megatron is the leader of the Decepticons. Originally his name was going to be changed because it sounded too scary. The makers of the show argued that he needs to have a scary name if he's the main villain. What was he gonna call him? Bob? According to the comics, the reason why Megatron wears a helmet is because he needed it when he worked in mines on his home planet of Cybertron. Frank Welker voices Megatron. Welker is said to be the greatest voice actor alive today. Although you may not have heard of him, he has over 750 acting credits. Although he's done hundreds of voices, he is probably best known as Megatron.
When we slip by their early warning systems in their own shuttle and destroy Autobot City, the Autobots will be vanquished forever! No! Such heroic nonsense.
Although he doesn't voice Megatron in the live action movies, that goes to Hugo Weaving, he does voice Galvatron in Transformers Age of Extinction, and many die-hard fans were so happy to hear that iconic voice again.
You have no soul. That is why I have no fear.
Also, he voiced 7 of the original 13 Decepticons: Megatron, Soundwave, Skywarp, Rumble, Frenzy, Laserbeak, and Ravage. Soundwave was originally called Cassette Man. It's depressing that some young people will be watching this having no idea what a cassette is. The first Transformer ever designed was Optimus Prime's General, Ironhide. A passenger at Heathrow was forced to change his t-shirt to board a flight because the character on it was holding a gun. That character was Optimus Prime. Oh look, that guy's wearing a Transformers t-shirt, so he has to be a terrorist because that's the world we live in now. Optimus Prime is the leader of the Autobots. The creator of Marvel Comics, Stan Lee, came up with his name. Peter Cullen voices Optimus Prime. Cullen based Prime's voice on John Wayne.
I have witnessed their capacity for courage, and though we are worlds apart, like us, there's more to them than meets the eye.
The Autobots' eyes are blue, the Decepticons' eyes are red. Most of the Autobots transform into land vehicles. Most of the Decepticons transform into flying vehicles. In one episode, the Autobot Sea Spray falls in love with a mermaid. He turns himself into a human to be with her. The idea that Transformers can turn into humans is never referenced again. Also, why don't you turn into a mermaid? Because you still can't get... When Optimus Prime turns into a truck, his trailer suddenly appears behind him. When he turns into his robot form, the trailer vanishes. There is never any explanation as to where it goes when Prime transforms. Transformers the movie was released in 1986, just after season 2. In the film, many Transformers died, including Optimus Prime. The reason so many characters were killed off was so the show could introduce new Autobots and Decepticons in order to sell more toys. Usually that's the worst reason you can make a plot point in a story, but it worked because it was really emotional when Optimus Prime died. After he died, Optimus Prime was never supposed to return to the series, but fans demanded it. He was resurrected in Season 3. Season 4 only had 3 episodes translated into English. Due to poor ratings, the rest of the episodes were never released in the Western world. Okay, there's gonna be a lot of naming stuff now. In Season 1, there are 24 Autobots: Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Bumblebee, Skyfire, Hound, Bluestreak, Jazz, Mirage, Prowl, Ratchet, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Trailbreaker, Cliffjumper, Wheeljack, Gears, Huffer, Windcharger, Brawn, Grimlock, Slag, Snarl, Swoop, and Sludge. Grimlock, Slag, Snarl, Swoop, and Sludge transform into dinosaurs. They are the Dinobots. In Season 1, there are 22 Decepticons: Megatron, 3 Transformers called Reflector, Starscream, Skywarp, Thundercracker, Shockwave, Hook, Bone Crusher, Mixmaster, Longhaul, Scavenger, Scrapper, Bombshell, Kickback, Shrapnel, Soundwave, Rumble, Ravage, Laserbeak, and Frenzy. Scrapper, Hook, Bone Crusher, Scavenger, Longhaul, and Mixmaster transform into construction vehicles. They are known as the Constructicons. The Constructicons were the first combiner on the show. A combiner is a group of Transformers that can fuse together to become a gigantic Transformer. When the Constructicons combine, they become Devastator. In Japan, the Constructicons are called the Bildrons. Although Devastator is the most famous, there are other combiners. Another group is the Combaticons. They are made up of Onslaught, Blastoff, Brawl, Swindle, and Vortex. They combine to form Bruticus. There are some Autobots that can turn into planes. They are known as the Aerial Bots. They are made up of Silverbot, Skydive, Fireflight, Slingshot, and Air Raid. They can combine to form Superion. There's a group of Autobots designed to heal injured Transformers. They are called the Protectobots. They are made up of Hotspot, Blades, Streetwise, Groove, and First Aid. They can combine together to form Defensor. Another Decepticon combiner is Menasor. He is made up of Stunticons, Motormaster, Breakdown, Dead End, Dragstrip, and Wild Rider. It was at this point where my editor just said, I'm not doing this anymore, I don't understand what any of these words mean. In his defense, he was an English professor for decades, so it's kind of weird that he has to edit Omega Supreme, Beachcomber. He's like, done! In Season 2, 15 new Autobots are introduced. Trax, Smokescreen, Skids, Red Alert, Inferno, Hoist, Grapple, Blaster, Warpath, Seaspray, Powerglider, Cosmos, Beachcomber, Omega Supreme, and Perceptor. Soundwave's underlings are called the Cassetticons. Although Starscream died, he returned as a ghost. How does a robot have a ghost? The Decepticon combiner Predaking is made up of the carnivore Transformers called Predacons. They are made up of Razor Claw, Headstrong, Tantrum, Dive Bomb, and Rampage. Bumblebee was eventually destroyed and rebuilt as Goldbug. Goldbug was supposed to be his original name. The Transformers were built by the Quintessons. The Quintessons created the Transformers for their own desires. Autobots worked in factories, and Decepticons were designed for war. The Quintessons had no idea that the Transformers would eventually develop emotions and revolt against their creators. After the Quintessons were banished from Cybertron, the Decepticons tried to take over the planet. Since they were designed for war, they had a huge advantage over the Autobots. To counter this, the Autobots developed the ability to transform into vehicles for stealth purposes. When the Decepticons learned this, they reprogrammed themselves so they could transform as well. Oh! There's actually a reason they transform. Jetfire, sometimes called Skyfire, is the only Transformer that changes his allegiance. This also applied to Jetfire in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Frank Welker performed the voice of Soundwave, and then the voice was altered electronically. The creators forgot to do this for 2 episodes, so his voice does not sound electronicalized, which is just weird and ridiculous.
Rumble, Laserbeak, Ravage, prepare for battle.
If you're wondering why Soundwave's voice sounds exactly like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, because Frank Welker voiced him as well. There was a new type of Transformer introduced in Season 2 called a Triple Changer. Triple Changers have 3 forms. Blitzwing could transform into a robot, a tank, or a jet. Astro Train could turn into a robot, a train, or a space shuttle. In Transformers Age of Extinction, the first Triple Changer debuted. He is a samurai transformer called Drift. He can transform into a samurai, a car, or a helicopter. When I was a kid, everyone had a Transformer, but I was the first kid to have a Triple Changer. I had Blitzwing. Everyone was jealous. I was the talk of the town. Everyone was like, oh, take me now, James. In fact, I said to my wife when we first started going out that this was my favorite toy as a child. And on Christmas Day, she got it for me. I don't know how she did it. I couldn't remember what his name was, and she was able to track it down. And I've kept it ever since this was my favorite toy ever. Production of the show was so intense that sometimes scripts would be written in less than a day. The largest Autobot is Omega Supreme. He's so large that all the Autobots can fit inside him. He transforms into a spaceship base. The Autobots left their home planet Cybertron after it was depleted of their power source Energon. As the Autobots ventured into space, they were chased by the Decepticons. As the Transformers battled each other, their ships got pulled into Earth's gravity and they crashed into a mountain, killing all the Transformers. Millions of years after the Transformers arrived on Earth, a nearby volcano erupted, activating the Autobot ship computer. The computer automatically repaired all the Transformers and reconfigured them so they could transform into vehicles on Earth. The Autobots' computer is called Teletran. The Autobots have their own base on Earth called Autobot City. The city is actually a giant transformer called Metroplex. Computron is another Autobot combiner. He is made up of the Technobots, Scattershot, Lightspeed, Strafe, Afterburn, and Nose Cone. Nose Cone? Really? In the episode Nightmare Planet, the Transformers battled Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. Wheeljack was the first Transformer to appear on the show. Cliffjumper was going to be called Blowout due to his wheels blowing out all the time. Alpha Trion is the only Transformer that noticeably ages throughout the series. Ravage was supposed to be called Stalker. Spike Witwicky is the main character. When the show begins, he is 14 years old. Spike's real name is never revealed. In the comics, his name is William. Season 4 is set 20 years in the future. The studio originally laughed at the name Transformers. The Autobot Ratchet turns into an ambulance and is considered the nurse of the Autobots. His name is a reference to Nurse Ratchet in the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Even his head is designed the same way as Ratchet's hairstyle. Ratchet was supposed to be female. The studio rejected the idea, saying they only wanted male Transformers. However, the first female Transformer, RC, was introduced in the movie. The script for Transformers the movie was written in 1 day, and yet it's the best film ever made. Transformers the movie was heavily influenced by Star Wars. Really? You know what? I never noticed.
There's an evil new force in the universe.
RC has the same hairstyle as Princess Leia from Star Wars. There was a Brooklyn gang called the Decepticons during the 1980s that would steal money from children. The leader called himself Megatron. The weirdest thing was, it was briefly the biggest street gang in New York. John Machita voices the super fast talking Autobot Blur.
We got Decepticons at the gates, Decepticons at the air, Decepticons inside the walls, Decepticons. If we beat them off the walls and they're still in the air, if we shoot them out of the air, then they're still at the gates. So where does that leave us? Nowhere, that's where.
Despite what many people believe, Blur's rapid speech is not edited. That is actually how fast he can talk. He held a record as the fastest talker in the world for several years. Optimus Prime dies in Transformers the movie. His death was inspired by John Wayne's death in the film The Alamo. The writers of the series created scripts for the show G.I. Joe. Most of the stories in G.I. Joe were recycled for this show. When Megatron lived on Cybertron, he shot a small Autobot called Orion Pax. Pax was repaired by the oldest Autobot, Alpha Trion. Trion realized that Pax had more potential than any other Transformer and so gave Pax vast power, which turned him into Optimus Prime. This means that Megatron indirectly created his arch-nemesis. Although Optimus Prime's death in Transformers the movie was heartbreaking to many children, Prime died over 25 times. He died in the first episode. Transformers can create a new Transformer from within their own body. This is called budding. Because the schedule of the show was so tight, there were many blatant errors, including voices not matching up or characters' limbs disappearing. Also, the Transformers' sizes kept changing. Like, in this shot, how big is that door? Or how small are they? Or how big are the humans? I don't know. Another example is Shockwave. He was left on Cybertron, however, eventually he found his way back to Earth, but then Megatron sent him back to Cybertron. Despite this, he still appears on Earth from time to time, because the animators forgot that he's not meant to be there. In some episodes, humans can just breathe in space. To blow off steam, the Autobots play basketball. God, this show's way more stupid than I remember. The Decepticons' ship is called the Nemesis. The Autobot ship is called the Ark. From season 4 onward, there were several changes to the show. One of the main differences is the only female Autobot, RC, was turned into a secretary. The show inspired a reboot called Transformers Beast Wars. In this show, the Transformers turn into animals. The heroes are called Maximals, and the villains are called Predacons. They already use Predacons. Although this might sound like a stupid idea, this is actually the highest rated show of any Transformers series according to IMDb. It is rated higher than the original Transformers series. The original Transformers series is commonly known as Transformers G1 or Generation 1. Steven Spielberg's favorite Transformer is Bumblebee. You know who mine is? It was Steven Spielberg's idea for Michael Bay to direct the Transformers live-action film. Thanks. The show had many spin-offs including Transformers Animated, Transformers Prime, and Transformers Robots in Disguise. Megatron transforms into a gun. Because it's illegal to import any gun-shaped toy in Australia, Australians aren't allowed to buy the original Megatron toy. Originally, Skyfire was going to be the leader of the Autobots. In one episode, Megatron allies with Cobra from G.I. Joe. In Japan, the show was originally called Fight Super Robots Lifeforms Transformers. Blitzwing once breaks into a football stadium, and then one of the dumbest moments ever in Transformers happens.
Coach, it's a tank! What do I do? Get him the ball!
Give the tank the ball! Even as a child, I was like, why would you do that? Cliff Jumper and Bluestreak is voiced by renowned voice actor Casey Kasem. Although he has over 100 acting credits, he is best known as voicing Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo series. Casey Kasem is of Palestinian and Lebanese ancestry. He left the show after there was an episode in a Middle Eastern country that was actually called Carbomia. The creators thought he wouldn't be upset by that. Megatron once convinced the humans that the Decepticons were the good guys, and so the humans created Decepticon Day. They even had a party for the Decepticons. Okay, let's look at the 1986 film Transformers the movie. The film had a surprisingly good cast, including Leonard Nimoy, Eric Idle, Judd Nelson, and Orson Welles. In some countries, the film is called Transformers Apocalypse Matrix Forever. Orson Welles plays the main villain, Unicron. When Welles was asked what the film was about, he said, "I play a big toy who attacks a bunch of small smaller toys. Unicron is the most powerful Transformer ever. He can turn into a planet. Unicron was originally going to be called Ingester. 14 Transformers die in this film. When Unicron roars, the sound is actually from the Hulk in the 1982 cartoon series. In the original script, the Transformers planet Cybertron was going to turn into a robot and fight Unicron. Orson Welles was so ill when he did his voiceover work that some have suggested Leonard Nimoy voiced his scenes. This is not true. This was the last film Orson Welles ever made. Unicron is based off the Marvel supervillain Galactus. Both of them are cosmic beings that devour planets. And finally, can you imagine how excited you'd be when the creator of Unicron appeared in the show? This is Unicron's creator, Primacron. What the hell? Special thanks to these fine people for all their help. Be sure to subscribe to Facts About Everything. Follow me on Twitter for updates on upcoming videos. Check out my Facebook page to let me know what subjects you want me to talk about in the future. Thanks for watching. See you again.